No.
Morning and welcome, members, officers, any press and members of the public that may well be watching on the council's YouTube channel for this formal meeting of Cabinet. As mentioned, the Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel. So please, if you are speaking to any matter that we will be considering today, as set out in the agenda, note that we will need to ensure that those members of the public, indeed colleagues and members of the press that you watching, if you could just elevate your voice slightly more, but don't shout. I am going to also remind everyone that if there are any members of the Cabinet or the executive that are also participating in the formal meeting of the Cabinet via Zoom, they'll be able to participate in the debate, but they won't be allowed to vote, and also their attendance won't be formally recorded. So we're going to jump onto the agenda, and I'm going to be firstly taking apologies for absence. And I want to note the following apologies for absence as being Councillor Carleen McLean. No. Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway even, apologies. Councillor Charlene McLean. Councillor Joshua Garfield. Councillor Rohit Dasgupta. Councillor John Morris. Councillor Miraj Patel. And I am looking around to see if there are any. And Councillor Anne Easter. Are there any others?
Assuming Mariam.
All right, brilliant. So we've noted all of those apologies for absence. I'm going to come to declarations of interest. So noting all the items in the agenda, can I ask if there are any declarations of interest? Declarations of interest defined 9 to 10. First, any members of Cabinet and the wider executive that are present here. There are no declarations of interest required for today's meeting, Joy. And then I'm going to just turn to any officers. Are there any declarations of interest? Right, so we're noting a declaration of interest from Officer Darren Mackin. Is there any need to elaborate on which item?
The housing matters. The reason for that is because Vicky is not here today. So,
right.
Darren's just going to clarify and answer.
Okay, fine. So in the absence of Vicky Clark, the Interim Corporate Director of Inclusive Economy and Strategic Housing Delivery, Darren Mackin, our Director of Building, is deputising, but will only be here to answer technical questions in light of the declaration of interest that has been made. Thank you very much. I'm now going to be jumping on to the minutes of the Cabinet decisions made on the 8th of June 2023. I'm going to take them as read. Can we approve the minutes?
Agreed.
Minutes have been agreed. On agenda item 4, appointments to outside bodies. There are no appointments being announced today. And now we're going to be going to the substantive agenda items. And if you could kindly note that I will be just doing introductory remarks, and as per what I said a short while ago, have Darren Mackin available to answer any technical questions. I'm also going to be inviting Councillor Shaban Mohammed to say some words if you wish to on this item. So this relates to the Canning Town Estates Regeneration Programme, Master Plan Principles and Accelerated Delivery of Vincent Street. And this is a mix of council money as it pertains to drawdown either from capital but also HRA. And wanted to just amplify that the Canning Town regeneration scheme is going from strength to strength. We know the history, a history characterized by delays, and dissatisfaction from local residents because of approaches that the council took previously. But what we have chosen to do as part of a new direction for the council under the auspices of the corporate plans at the time between 2018 and 2022, and now our corporate plan Building Up Fair and Newham, we're continuing to deliver on our strategic housing commitments and our agenda. And as we've always subscribed to the important principles of co-production and co-design with local residents, we've successfully progressed on carpenters, we're successfully progressing on custom house, and this is our third major estate regeneration scheme that will uplift the very character of Canning Town and be very uplifting for its people. The paper presents for approval the latest master plan proposals, key part of the vision for the future of Canning Town, alongside proposals to accelerate a second planning application for the good quality, sustainable and genuinely affordable homes at social rent levels on vacant land as phase 2 of the master plan. The paper also seeks to improve the draft landlord offer and to delegate authority to finalise and publish the landlord offer in line with our procedures. So the delegation to the corporate directors, relevant corporate director, in discussions with the portfolio leads. And then there's also a really important feature around being given the green light today by all of us around the resident ballot process. As you all know, it's a GLA requirement that we enact a residents ballot for the purposes of ensuring that there's the people support for what we're intending to do. And obviously the people's support will be contingent on their levels of confidence about their involvement and how we are assuring them that this is a good thing. So you'll be asked, and we will all be asked as Mayor and Cabinet to approve the proposals as set out. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Councillor Shaban Mohammed to conclude the introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I think it's a really good paper, and I just want to thank Darren and his team for all the work they've been doing with the residents around the co-production, co-designing. And I think having that resident input into designing not only their homes and their green spaces and listening to the residents. I think, you know, this process of regeneration in Canning Town has always been a stop-start process previously, but now it's accelerating at a really good thing at pace, and really pleased that finally it's starting. We're building new homes, not only new homes that can be energy efficient and sustainable. And we're looking to retrofit a lot of homes as well. So we are, you know, as a council, we are starting to think outside the box, looking at new energy, making our green energy as well, and making sure that our homes are fit for purpose. And we want to drive up standards, and that's what your officers have been doing. So thank you for all the great work that you've been doing. And, you know, new homes means new communities as well, but it also means that we work with the existing communities and build our communities around our estates and our regeneration schemes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to open up to questions. Any particular questions that any member of the Cabinet Executive would like to ask? And whilst I'm seeking hands up, just want to draw everyone's attention to page big number 30 and the illustration under section 3.3, and you'll note the significant footprint of Canning Town's regeneration area and how it relates to the other areas of focus around regeneration. Right.
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, first, I'm really pleased that we're continuing to look at retrofitting. We started custom house as well, and I don't know whether we're all necessarily totally understanding it, but actually people are really excited about retrofitting. But I also like to say I'm really pleased to see in the table on page 35 that we're actually going to be providing 31 5-bedrooms because that's actually really important.
Yeah.
So I think that's remarkable actually to be able to get in 5-bedroom, 4 and 5-bedroom houses, because that's what we really need.
Yeah.
So that's really, really welcomed.
Yeah, so 4.8.3, the table just sets out the mix of units that will be delivered in total, 1,511, of which 762 are private and 749 are affordable, equating to a ratio of 49.6% to 50.4%. And I'm assuming the reason why we weren't able to reach the 50%, because I know that this is really important to members in line with the corporate plan, are issues of viability. And I think in the interests of transparency around that, because viability is always contested, and as much as it's complex, 2 things. Could you kindly just provide us a short clarification around that? And then secondly, on the viability, who does the viability? And I know there's been some suggestion elsewhere that the council doesn't have independence in its viability assessment, and I just wanted for the record to get that clarified, because
yeah, I can take both those points. So I'm Darren Mackin, Director of Community Wealth Building. So yeah, the mix is just under 50-50 on the affordable private rented split. 2 reasons for that really is the point Councillor Roos made there about trying to maximise the number of 4 and 5-bedroom larger properties. So you're looking at kind of that takes up more land to start with, you need more space for that. And then the second thing is around the kind of design process, so what can fit where on the land that's available. This might alter the design phase is at the moment. So there's a chance that that will increase over time, particularly if, for example, more grant became available. So we keep that under review. First point. And then on the viability side of this, this current report is level viability at the moment, looking at kind of the overall model, does it work? But when we're assessing individual elements and or a finance budget paper, independent assessment, maybe have consultants who advise the council. The models are tested against benchmarks in the wider sector to give us the confidence that we're kind of using the right assumptions and therefore make the right financial decisions.
fine. And just in terms of the independent viability, individual, so they're from outside of the council, and does the council have its own viability assessor? Could you,
So I'm Conrad Hall, I'm the council's Director of Resources and Statutory Chief Finance Officer. So this report, like all reports, contains in section 9 implications to the finance department, which you refer to the specific point. All of the viability assessments then checked and tested by the Council Finance Department. I provide that to all members of the council to ensure that that's the appropriate check and balance on proposals that are taken forward. We do that at each critical stage of these developments. A viability assessment, obviously, as explained, if we test that those assumptions are reasonable, then in the real world, of course, over time, make to those assumptions. Each stage that we come to a key on this, we'll be committing sums of money. We run those viability assumptions in order to test that they are still reasonable and that the scheme is valid. That way we ensure that we don't commit further sums without those.
okay.
Forward somebody, I think.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, okay, I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to attention to the recommendations on big page number 29. 2.1, for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to 2.1.1, approve the latest master plan proposals for Canning Town Estate, noting the direction of travel presented, including the provision of retrofit summarised in section 4 of this report. 2.1.2, approve the design, progression and submission of a planning application for second subphase to kickstart and deliver additional affordable housing to help facilitate decant, which is already contained within the existing budget approval. 2.1.3, approve the draft landlord offer, which is set out in Appendix 1 and in accordance with the steps set out in sections 5.1.7, delegate authority to the Corporate Director for Inclusive Economy and Housing Delivery in consultation with the Corporate Director of Resources and the lead member for Inclusive Economy, Housing Delivery, Climate Emergency, Transformation and Performance and the lead member for Housing Services to finalise and publish the landlord offer document for Canning Town Estate. 2.1.4, subject to 2.1.1, delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Inclusive Economy and Housing to approve the local lettings plan that optimises the decant opportunities within the master plan and the wider Canning Town area in consultation with the lead member for Inclusive Economy, Housing Delivery, alongside the lead member for Housing Services. 2.1.5, approve the running of a residence ballot for the Canning Town Estate Programme with the requirements of PLA as set out in the capital funding guide. Do we agree?
Agreed, Chair.
Sorry, that's agreed by all members of Cabinet and myself. Thank you very much. We're now going to be moving on to the next agenda item, which is item 6, small sites options appraisal and modular next steps, covered off pages, big page number 107 to 114. I'm going to be inviting the lead members on this, Councillor Zulfikar Ali and Councillor Shabbar Mohammed, to talk through. Then we'll jump onto any questions and then go to the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Zulfikar Ali, Cabinet Lead for Finance and Resources. As we all know, Chair, the national housing and homelessness crisis is resulting in serious shortage of properties to accommodate our residents. The Council is taking very many proactive steps to continue to explore all possible options to deal with this crisis, provide good quality, affordable homes for our residents who deserve dignity and proper treatment. And that will also impact on reducing our rising temporary accommodation costs. The Council has already embarked on a number of ambitious initiatives to achieve our target of 1,500 affordable homes through its development and acquisition program and by enabling and encouraging developers to provide more affordable homes. We currently have 375 small sites across the borough, garages, buildings, and unmanaged lands of a public realm area, which are often subject to flight tips and antisocial behavior. And as part of this proposal is to look at their potential development. And there are various opportunities to see whether we can turn them into meeting our housing needs, looking at redeveloping for specialist housing, for example, care leavers and transportation for adults, community-led housing, supermarkets, community gardens, travel sites. And there are many other options that we are looking at, including increasing the public realm opportunities. Officers' initial assessment is that approximately 25% of these sites could have potential for housing redevelopment. And that is on the basis of an average 5 units per site. And this equates to a potentially additional 469 new homes, much needed, as we all know, which will contribute to our housing delivery targets. For the option appraisal for these sites, the first recommendation is for approval of a budget of £200,000 to enable us to look at the feasibility of these sites for better use in order to meet the corporate delivery objectives. The modular construction is something else that has been tried and used by different authorities in order to deliver faster home building programs. And this report recommends a budget of £1 million to enable us to carry feasibility for the use of modular constructions. And we have chosen 3 sites, which are 35 Victoria Lane E6, Chargeable Lane E13, and 79 Berwick Road E16. This is a new construction methodology and is known to deliver housing deliver more quickly and efficiently than the traditional methodologies. So it is proposed we use these sites to take them through the planning and development stage, in order to construct modular building and investigate this methodology and with estimated costs and time savings. And if successful, this technique could be used in other council development projects. So I asked the cabinet to endorse the recommendations as stated. Thank you, Chair. Guys, also like to add?
Can I just, before you do, Giles, can I just pass on to councillor Shaban? Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I'll just thank Giles and Sam for the great work they've done. And I think the main thing is that this is the first time that we've actually done this piece of work, looking at all our small sites and how we can all deliver housing on it. And also, we're talking about modular housing, quite excited. We're going to be going down this avenue of exploring everything out of the box. Like I said in the previous paper, that we're looking at every option of delivering housing for our residents. Really, really important. And I just want to thank, again, Giles and Sam for this great piece of work. And again, it's about what we do with these sites. It could be working with partners as well. Again, it's going to be whatever we decide to do, but it's going to be around the environment and making a real difference to our residents. Thank you.
All right, I'm not going to take any comments right now from officers because we've got a lot to get through by 11:30, and I will invite officers in to answer any questions. And if we've got time, any concluding remarks. Right, are there any questions from members of the cabinet? Right, councillor Sarah Roos.
Yes, thank you, Chair. On page 110, big page 110, it says up to 18 units. Is that per site or is that 18 in total?
Okay, I'm going to pass over to Sam.
18 in total across those 3 sites.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Then any other questions, colleagues? Right, councillor Neil Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Neil Wilson, Cabinet Member for Health and Adult Social Care. Paragraph 4.6 refers to the options that will be considered against council priorities to building a fair renewal. And it's my understanding that Appendix 1 is not exempt. So there's reference to the Appendix 1. Presumably, in a sense, everything on that list is in accordance. I mean, particularly, you may not be surprised, I'm concentrating on the redevelopment specialist housing for temporary accommodation, adults, care leavers and housing.
HCFM.
But there's also a whole series of things around supermarkets, community gardens. The assessment process is the first stage. Then we've identified the sites, the assessment process, and the options will be coming back presumably once there's been some further work done to at a more site-based level.
Absolutely, Chair.
Yeah. So so there's a wider system framework approach to all of the council's assets, and that framework is applied as it pertains to any of the acquisitions all aspects of the acquisitions programme, and then sites will come forward once it goes through that process. Yeah, was there a concern?
No, it's just a comment really. And on, excuse me, it says 375 or some number was in the paper, 375 sites, but there's also some other sites in addition to that, I think, in terms.
Which one are you referring to?
Paragraph 3.4, top of page 109, refers to 375 sites, consistently mostly of garage sites and small parcels of land.
Yeah.
But in the appendix, it does refer to even more.
Okay, but you're not going to make reference to the appendix.
You can to one.
You can, it's not.
It's exempt.
No, it's not.
Oh, appendix.
Appendix 1 is okay.
Oh, right, okay, fine.
So,
So,
I did check.
so you want clarification as to the difference in numbers?
Just basically, if we're talking more, I mean, I understand that this is a continuous process, so probably even higher or whatever, but
Okay,
clarification.
are you able to clarify?
Yeah, so the 375 small sites in relation to the paper relates to small garage sites and parcels of land. And then the figure that Councillor Wilson has just pointed out, they're larger pieces of land that we still have to explore, but we can update Cabinet accordingly as we kind of do further due diligence on that.
Okay, right. Are there any other questions? No. Right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add by way of conclusion?
Not from me, thank you.
All right, Giles, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, great. Colleagues, on the big page number 108, recommendations, I just wanted to recommendations as a whole. 2.3, last sentence or last line in that paragraph. So it says contracts for the services as per 3.2. It should read 2.2. It was a typo. Okay. Right. So recommendations for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices. Cabinet is recommended 2.1 to agree a budget of £200,000 to enable the appointment of an asset strategy consultant to undertake the options appraisal and other activity and other ancillary works on the small site. That's a lot of money for one person. How long? Is that 2 years? Just out of interest.
Well, there are 375 sites, which will need to be looked at from a proper physical process.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the scale of sites. I just don't understand £200,000 for one person for how long?
Hi, Mayor, can I just clarify that? So it's for, we're appointing consultants to carry out the work, and they'll do the full package of reviewing all the sites, options appraising, and just like they'll be appointed for a framework, etc. So it'll be kind of a transparent procurement process as well. It's not an employee as such.
Oh, okay. Right. So 2.1 to agree a budget of £200,000 to enable the appointment of an asset strategy consultant to undertake the option appraisals and other ancillary works on the small sites. 2.2 to agree a budget of £1 million in order to undertake surveys and other ancillary works in order to proceed with designing Vicarage Lane, Berwick Road and Chargeball Lane or other suitable sites to rebirth stage 3 pre-submission of planning with the intent of delivering through modular construction where this is more effective than adopting a traditional approach. 2.3, delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Resources in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources to approve any necessary procurement process and to award a contract or contracts for the services as per 2.2. And then 2.4, note that a further report will be brought to Cabinet in December 2023 to submit planning for suitable modular sites that are proposed to be taken forward. Cabinet members, do you all agree?
Agreed.
So that's agreed by Cabinet and myself, Joy. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to next agenda item, which is agenda item 7, Plasto Hub Scheme, and I will be inviting Officer Darren Mackin to also be with us. Ask questions, and I'll also invite Councillor Zulfikar Ali to make a few opening comments. And just to advise that building on the recommendations set out on big page number 116, but please note there are some exempt appendices. You'll recall, well, some of you, in December 2019, Cabinet approved a total of £113.1 million funding for Popular Living, which is Council's wholly owned housing company, to deliver the Plasto package of 6 sites, comprising 182 market rent homes, 112 affordable homes, a new library, commercial space, public groundwork. Popular's completed all the affordable homes, which included 104 at London affordable rent levels. These homes are now occupied by families from our housing waiting list. Popular is approaching completion of Plasto Hub the complex commercial development next to Plaistow Tube Station that includes private rented sector homes and retail space, and which provides the cross subsidy for the affordable homes component. The projects commenced at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Poplo forecast to Newham Council early in the project that it might not be possible to complete the development within the agreed contingency budget, but that the additional investment required would only be known at the end of the project. Poplo is now close to completion and therefore seeking, in spite of that previous pre-COVID flag that they raised, that there will be a additional investment requirement that can't be covered by the existing contingency approval to cover additional construction costs and interest payable to Newham Council, and that amounts to £9.9 million. The project financial model has been scrutinised by Newham's legal and finance team, and the scheme remains viable and meets all of the council's investment hurdles. And then through Poplo, the council obviously benefits from both the new affordable homes, but also takes a financial return from this particular scheme in a similar vein to others over the lifetime of the investment it is making in the Plaistow hub. So Cabinet's going to be invited on recommendation to agree the additional development stage loan funding of 3.9 million, along with additional investment stage loan funding of 9.9 million at Poplo Living for the Plaistow hub scheme, noting that this will increase the Newham equity market loan funding facility by £9.9 million to 93 points. So what that means is basically it's increased it by virtue of the 9.9 million to 93.7 million. It didn't stop at 9.9 million and has just mushroomed to 93.7 million, if that makes sense. Bit of clumsy writing on my part. I'm going to invite Zulfi if you wanted to say anything more. Otherwise, I'm going to open up for questions from Cabinet.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reinforce what you said about the financial robustness of the process that we have in place for scrutinizing such projects, this project, as you would expect, any other projects of this nature, has gone through that process, and it remains viable and it meets all LBN investment hurdles. As you all know, the Poplo is a wholly owned Newham investment company, and the council not only benefits from affordable homes, but also takes a financial return from this over the lifetime of the investment itself. As explained earlier, additional investment required is to cover increased development costs, change in funding approach, and increased interest costs caused mainly by the delays in scheme. And the borrowing rate for the additional development loan took account of the current high interest rate. As we all know, this is affecting everybody here. Again, it needs to be noted that the favorable movement in the current rental market assumptions exceed where rent level expected to be in during the 2023. They actually compensate the increased funding requirements. Due to the increase in the funding requirement, the total return to the council in both the first 15 years and 50 years are higher than we initially expected. So the increase in the private rental market as a result of the current market condition means that the council is ensuring that this scheme meets the council approved scheme hurdles, and the total return of the scheme has increased from 305 million to 376 million, which is a favorable movement of 71 million. Net present value of the scheme again has increased by 35 million from 67 million to 102 million, demonstrating that scheme remains viable over the 50-year time period. That's all I'll say, Chair.
Super. Right. Any questions, colleagues? No, don't see any hands up. Are there any comments? No? Okay, fine. So, colleagues, if just go to the recommendations as set out on big page number 116. Recommendations 2.1 for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices. Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1 to approve additional
Well,
I was trying to get my tissue in time. Oh.
High pollen count.
2.1.1 to approve additional development stage loan funding of 3.9 million.
Brilliant.
Investment stage loan funding of 9.9 million to Popular Living for the Plasto Hub scheme, noting that this will increase the Newham equity market loan funding facility by 9.9 million. Could we insert the following words? So it reads to a total of £93.7 million. Joy.
Yes, we can, Chair.
Thank you. So that last sentence, noting that this will increase the Newham equity market loan funding facility by £9.9 million to a total of 3.7 million. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, do we agree? All agree. Thank you very much. Now moving on to the new Plasto Library fit out, procurement approval. Over to Zulfikar Ali.
Thank you, Chair. This report recommends approval to invite tenders for fit-out works at the new Plasto Library, which, as you may recall, we called it a state-of-the-art development. And this is part of the Plasto Hub development, which we have earlier discussed. All works are being undertaken by Popular. The budget for these works was approved by Cabinet in 2021, and the proposal here is for the works to be undertaken within this budget, but with an additional tolerance of 10% to allow for inflation over the last 2 years. This would allow for a contract to be placed for a sum of up to 2.76 million by the Corporate Director of Reserve Finance and Resources in consultation with myself. Summary of the work is contained in section 4 of the report, and that also includes steps that are being taken to manage the anticipated impact of the inflation. The kind of work we're proposing, which are covered in here, is installation of mechanical and electrical services, including green energy solutions such as LED lighting and sensors, creation of plant rooms, offices, washrooms, and community areas. It's all floors, ceilings, and walls, including installation, decoration, and signage. Those are the details of the work. While not part of the proposal, it should be noted that the officers are looking at various options for the reuse of the existing Plasto Library, which is a listed building, after its relocation. And members will have an opportunity to consider these options in due course. With those words, Chair, I'm led to approve the recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions, colleagues? Councillor Sarah Rose.
just picking up on that last point about the existing building. Is there going to be a time limit on that? Because I'm just conscious of the old Canning Town Library. And I know that work is being done now, but what assurances can we have that actually the old Plasto Library will be speedily reused rather than it just sitting there gathering vandals?
I think you're absolutely right, Chair. This is a large community asset which is there. There are a number of other activities which we're looking across other services like community, Charlie McLean services as well, to see what can be delivered from that location. Bearing in mind, it is a listed thing, and there is some relationship with library and what happens to the Balham Street side, the leisure services side, because they think that the staff have been talking to, and there was a community consultation in that regard. So it is being looked at, and I can assure you that we'll bring back the proposal as soon as they can practically be considered in terms of feasibility of the use of the site for a better community use.
We have a timeline on that.
Giles, can I ask for your assistance here?
Yes, Councillor Ali. So there are a number of services and options which we are looking at presently. So we see no reason why there wouldn't be a recommendation that could be implemented at the same time that the current library relocates obviously the works to the Plastow Hub development need to be carried out before the library relocates.
Yeah.
So there is a period of time between now and then, and during that period, we will be doing the analysis of the options that we're looking at and bringing those back to cabinet.
Thank you, Giles.
Okay, fine. Right, I can't see any further questions. I'm gonna be asking,
I don't have a question. I have a comment, and it would be remiss of me not to say something.
yeah, please.
Seeing as it's a library and but it's I'm very excited by this and it will be, you know, in line with our corporate plan, delivered Pillar 5, and it will enable residents to, you know, have a state-of-the-art building in the new heart of Plastow and much needed community space. And so I'm very excited by this, and thank you very much.
Okay, super. Okay, so recommendations, big number 127, for the reasons set out in the report, Cabinet is recommended to undertake a tender exercise via construction online for the fit out of the shell hall space to provide a new library for the Plastow area based on the 2021 estimated cost of £2,400,000. Delegate the award of contract to the corporate director of resources, including a tolerance of up to a 10% increase to allow for inflation. That is up to £2,760,000 should tender returns be above 10%. A report will be presented to Cabinet for approval of additional funding. I'm also assuming, given it's a library, in terms of the procurement process and the fit out and the spec, you've been engaging with the
Yes.
library team. Yeah, okay, cool. So do we agree?
Agreed.
That's agreed. Thank you very much. Next paper is the Community Wealth Building Delivery Programme 31 to 35 Stock Street and Tate Institute procurement for capital improvement works. So colleagues, this relates to two of our programmes where we secured £40 million from national government, and we secured the largest amount from the London allocation of £65 million. And this is one of the projects that we've been mobilising. You'll note that there are exempt appendices. And so the report just sets out the case for approval to procure a developer operator partner for two buildings, one in Stock Street and the other in North Woolwich, primarily the Tate Institute. The procurement exercise will, in both cases, utilise the grant that we secured to identify a suitable partner for both buildings, and the partner will work in close collaboration with council to manage and design manage the design and construction phase, and then operate the building period of 25 years. And it's, I should just add, really crucial to our inclusive growth, community wealth building, and also our building new future cultural strategy. And will have quite a significant impact in terms of uplifting those neighbourhoods. And then the partners we procured will be offered a fixed level grant payment to pay for the refurbishment, with costs above the grant level expected to be met by the bidders via match funding. And then bidders will be tested for their ability to demonstrate that they can effectively manage the refurbishment, and that their proposed final use will positively benefit the local communities by the delivery community wealth building objectives of the council. And then there's a series of recommendations, primarily proceed with procurement with grants set for 1.015 million for Stock Street, 1.426 million for Tate Institute, and then the relevant delegations to delegate authority to the corporate director for inclusive economy and housing to approve the award of the contract to the most suitable bidder for both buildings. And I'm assuming that's in consultation with the relevant portfolio leads, yeah? Okay, so any questions, colleagues? No? Right, Anything else you wanted to say, Darren? No, fine. Recommendation. Number 134, for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, the Mayor and Cabinet are 2.1.1, proceeding with procurement in order to refurbish both 31 to 35 Stock Street and Tate Institute at a combined value of up to £2.441 million. 2.1.2, delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Inclusive Economy and Housing and consultation with the lead member for inclusive housing delivery. To award and enter into structured commission agreements with high scoring developer operator for both respective projects with a grant value over £1 million. A grant award for the refurbishment of 31 to 35 Stock Street of 1.015 million, and B, a grant award for the refurbishment of Tate Institute of 1.426 million. Is that agreed, Cabinet members?
Agreed.
Okay, that's agreed, Cabinet members and myself. Now we're going to be moving on to the final one. This is the Beckton Community Centre refurbishment, a long time coming. I am going to be passing it over to Councillor Zulfikar Ali and then open up to questions. And then we're done with that one.
Thank you, Chair. Following completion of a competitive tendering process, this report recommends entering into a contract for the refurbishment and improvement of the Beckton Community Centre at East End Manor Way. The community centre, as we all know, is very well used for a wide range of community facilities, including social, cultural, artistic, and support activities. These include use of many different faith groups, non-faith groups alike, and the further examples of the schemes of the community centres are set out in section 3 of the report. The cost of the work will be 1.5 million compared with the pre-tendering estimate of 1.75 million. And these will be covered by the levelling up and section 106 funds. And as we all know, these are time limited grants opportunities, which we must. And I may say, Chair, here, if these recommendations are approved, works start in October and will complete by October 2024, next year. Section 4 of the report lists the type of work that will be undertaken. Again, this is refurbishment, modernization, making sure we have the green credential there, improve accessibility, signage, and everything else that we need to make it a good centre that is better used for the community. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions, colleagues? I've got Councillor James Asser.
Thank you. I've got a comment then with a question on the end. So just firstly to say this is going to be very much welcomed by the community. I think it was one of our best used community centres in the whole borough, and has been kind of keenly felt that it hasn't been there because obviously it closed for refurbishment. Then the pandemic got in the way. I mean, that will be eased by some of the work that's been going on to open other community services in the area like the Will Thorne, but it is, given its location and its previous use, it is very, very popular. And the paper outlines some of the range of uses in there as well. It doesn't quite touch on everything because there are lots of kind of smaller community groups and wider, and but it is desperately in need of refurbishment because the heating didn't work, neither did the air conditioning. So it was a very limited period of the year where it was actually comfortable to be in, and it was in a poor state of repair. One of the things, just picking up on the kind of list of groups using it, one of the things it did have was quite a substantial kind of kitchen area, which was very well used, and particularly for kind of community groups providing lunches and things. And I know that was one of the kind of key things they wanted to see improved. I understand it's not listed specifically on there, I don't think, but I just want to kind of check that is still included in the refurbishment plans to kind of modernise the kitchen so those groups can continue to use it.
I'm sure that the proposals will cover everything that currently exists that can improve those, but I'll just seek assurances from Giles.
Sue, could you pick up the detail of the specification?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, just to confirm, Councillor Asser, we will be improving the current kitchen and modernising it in line with the rest of the refurbishment works.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
This actually, it neatly follows on from the previous report. So the Tate Institute and the Beckton Community Centre were two of the most well-used buildings in that part of the borough. I mean, south of the A13 has long been neglected, so these community facilities were absolutely vital. The question is, I am hoping, and Sue probably will know the answer, but there are some, and I think we talked about it before, there are some plaques in the grounds commemorating various community activists, and can we have assurance that those plaques will be preserved? I don't mind where they are, but as long as we don't lose them, because that was of significant importance to the community at that time.
Absolutely.
I'm going to just pass that over to relevant officers. I mean, we do have a general approach around preservation of key features of sites, but not least.
Yeah, no, it's just that they're in the garden area, I think, and can easily be overlooked by the construction team. I just want to know that.
Pick that up for the purposes of this specific scheme, and then outside of this meeting, if we can just pick up what corporate approaches around, making sure that everyone's alert to that.
I mean, that is our heritage, and I'm sure we do need to protect it. And I think that will be the case, but I'll just ask Charles to confirm that.
Can we not? Because I really.
All right, conscious time. Yeah. Okay.
It's we can pick that up out.
Right.
Yeah.
Take my assurance.
Oh,
Great. Right. So any other questions on this? No? All right, fine. So we're now going to be going to the recommendations. Big page number 156.1, for reasons set out in the report, Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1, the award of contract to Ollie Construction Limited in the of £1,498,113 for the refurbishment of Beckton Community Centre to start in October 2023. Is that agreed? Still agreed by Cabinet and myself. Thank you very much. Then we're going to be moving on to the final agenda item, albeit actually it's not the final sort of Cabinet paper approval, because there's appendices that we've also got to approve and note. Right, so executive response to the report and recommendations of the removal of combustible cladding from residential buildings, task and finish group. So I'm going to invite Councillor Shabar Mohammed to introduce this, and then any questions, and then officers coming in to respond to those.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This paper sets how the council is performing against the 6 recommendations of the removal of combustible cladding from residential buildings, task and finish group. The annual report and recommendations. The task and finish groups report was discussed at Cabinet last year. I'm pleased to say we've made excellent progress in removing combustible external wall systems from council-owned blocks where cladding remediation to HRA buildings has been required. This work has either been completed or is planned. If additional materials are identified in the future, it will be addressed as a priority. In the private sector, the council's role has been identifying the building with ACM or unsafe external wall systems, and to take enforcement action where owners have failed to remove it. The ACM cladding has been removed from known residential buildings over 18 metres, and the work is ongoing to remove non-cladding components, which include small amounts of ACM. The building safety team in Newham have been working hard to meet the requirements of the new national legislation. A key aspect of the council response has been working with residents to make them aware of the progress and and providing opportunities to discuss concerns with officers. Thank you, Chair.
Fine. Are there any comments, questions? Questions primarily. Councillor Neil Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a comment really on page 169. Clearly, the recommendation is potential options regarding other council works on a local level with developers. I was pleased to note that we've already issued over 150 enforcement notices under Section 235 of the Housing Act 2004, requiring builder owners to produce documentation of the council. And I think that's a tribute to the work of the team And so that the messages clearly get across that, and we can reassure residents that we are taking as many steps as we're legally bound to do, entitled to do. So that was my only comment, Chair.
Right. Did you want to respond to that, Shabs?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, and I think we are working hard around cladding removal, and I think just want to thank the teams and the building safety teams and our POS licensing teams are actually doing that work and doing enforcement action, and I think we were one of the first councils that led on cladding removal just after Grenfell, so it's hats off to us for all the great work that we've been doing in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so I'm going to ask if we can just go to the recommendations relating to this report, noting that it's a report that goes back to scrutiny as part of the process. So for the reasons set out, I think Darren wants to say something.
Just first of all, one slightly technical point to be pointed out with democratic services is the 2.1, the cabinet is recommended to be rather than notes.
Okay, so the recommendations on big page number 163, where it says cabinet is recommended to note, cabinet is recommended to agree. Okay, so for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, cabinet is recommended to agree. 2.1.2, the executive response to the report and recommendations of the removal of combustible cabin from business buildings, task and finish group 2021-2022. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
That's agreed by all of us. Joy, thank you very much. Now we are moving on to agenda item. Right, I just wanted to cover off agenda item 13, 14, 15 and 16, only in so much. Can we all agree that we've noted the exempt appendices for agenda item 6, albeit that was no longer exempt? Yeah. Yep. 14, exempt appendix, agenda item 7, Plasto Hub Scheme, increased investment. Is that agreed? Voted the exempt. Agreed to note the exempt appendices for agenda item 9, community wealth building delivery programme. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
And then 16, noting the exempt appendix for 10, Beckton Community Centre refurbishment approval to award contract. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Great, thank you very much. On that note, I am going to formally close this meeting of the Cabinet, and thank you everyone for attending and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.